Okay, what I've done is drawn a complete outline of the item that I'm going to be drawing. In this case, it's going to be an arrowhead. I do this simply because I want to make sure that I have my dimensions correctly and I know my boundaries. I've got a lot of paper here to work with, but for the sake of demonstration purposes, I picked a small object to start with. Now, when you're doing silver point, you just have to work your material back and forth using a nice, steady stroke. You can use the same line textures, line motions that you would with your doing a regular pencil line. Now, when you're using silver point, you're going to wear down the point that you're working with. So what I do is I just take a little fingernail file and round off the point. Get a nice round shape out of it. If you're using silver itself, particularly in this case it's a piece of jewelry silver, I can get a nice round tip out of it. Works very well. Not very much expense. Now, a silver spoon works just as well as your stylus, except it's a little softer. And you have to work at it a little bit. But if you were going to do a portrait, this would be the material to work with. And don't worry about it being light. Over a period of time, the metal will tarnish. It'll get darker and steadily darker. For instance, I'll show you a piece that I did earlier this year. And see how dark this has become? And that was with the softer jeweler's silver. And it's gotten darker and darker and darker. And it's gotten to the point where I'm almost not happy with it because it just keeps getting darker and darker as the time goes by. Now, this particular paper that I'm using is just a cold press watercolor paper. You can use anything that's got a sturdy surface to it. Covered it with a matte gel and let it dry for a couple of hours. And as you can tell, it works very nicely. It's sturdy, doesn't warp or anything. And I can just keep going over it. And, oh, there is a fallacy about silver point to say that you can't erase it. If you've got a nice non-abrasive eraser, you can erase it, but you just got to be a little careful with it. But I don't intend to erase anything, so I don't even have an eraser on me right now. But now, if I was working on this to be a finished piece, it may take me a couple hours to do, and I'll show you what I finish at the end of this video. So I hope you're following me fairly well. Now I keep rotating the paper That way I can keep right in front of me the area that I'm going to work with without having to stretch out, and it's closer to my eyes. Now, as you noticed, I've switched over to my homemade stylus. As you can see, it's getting just as dark as it is with the silver. Now, the thing with the copper, it's going to tarnish a little green. So if you want something to be green, you use copper. But almost all the metals I've worked with all start silver. Now if you got an area that you want to have like a real deep cut in the flint, like this arrowhead, just nice little round circular motions will get you an indention. The more you go over an area, the darker it becomes. Okay, I'm going to work on this a while and get back with you. Now, as you can see, I've started to add some little marks and shapes to my arrowhead. And anybody that's ever seen an arrowhead know that there's dips and grooves in the arrow, and that's from where they've hit the flint with other rocks and things to get their shape. And since the light's coming from the left, I have added my shadows, getting the grooves in where I want them to be. Just going in and getting things to make it look more believable as an arrowhead. Now, there's almost nothing you can't do with silver point. First silver point I ever did was a flower, and I showed it to a few friends, had it in the 4-H fair, got me a blue ribbon out of it. But if you practice, it's just as easy as working with a pencil. And actually is a little more rewarding. You become too dependent on using erasers, I believe. Now you see it's starting to look a little more like flint, like somebody's worked it, getting that irregular surface. Okay, in a little bit I'll come back. I'll work on this a little bit. Now as you can see, it's beginning to take shape. You don't want to rush it. And as I tell the people who take my art classes, the better you get, the more frustrated you're going to become, because you're going to see more areas that you want to work on. Add more details. So you don't think you're making any accomplishments, but if you take your time, work at it, you get very good at it. But as I said, I've only been working at this silver point for a few years. I have a lot to learn yet. But this is just a simple demonstration showing you what you can actually accomplish with your silver point. And you can do this at home without spending too much time. And when you tell somebody that you're giving them a piece of silver point, if they know anything at all about the history of art, they'll be impressed. Well, we're just about done with this. I could spend several hours just going back in, adding more to it, making it look even more like a piece of flint. It's in darker areas. Changing the direction of my pencil every once in a while. But I think you're getting the idea what it's like to even do one of these. So have fun.